Okay, hi everyone. I'm Paul Kojas, CEO and founder at BIO Protocol. I spent a lot of my teenage years in kind of online scientific communities. Then discovered Bitcoin when I was about 23 and began building on Ethereum in about 2016. Joined Consensus, and then in 2018, 2019 really began working on decentralized science. So I asked myself, hey, what if instead of attaching pictures of cats to NFTs, we instead attach like novel chemical IP as a real world asset, and then we create online communities for different areas like longevity, women's health, synthetic biology, that are essentially funding research together as a collective. So maybe in short, what does BIO Protocol do? We help form online scientific communities for different research areas, and we're essentially a curation and liquidity and launchpad protocol. So we work really closely with patient groups, scientists, biotech investors from all over the world to create these novel entities. We've launched already 9 different BioDAOs. In the last 3 months, actually, we've been launching one every single month. And this is one thing that CZ once asked me. He's very interested in DeSci, and he asked me, but how many of these communities can we actually create? And the reality is that there are thousands of research areas, medical causes that people are excited about, and that people want to see scientific progress in. And so over the last 3 months, we launched 3 a month, and this month we're launching 2, and probably by May we'll already have 3 or 4 launching every single month. The huge difference really with BIO Protocol and the BIO Launchpad is that our team highly curates and selects, and together with token holders, each of the DAOs that are upcoming and that are launching to ensure that the quality is really, really high. So in December, for instance, we launched a DAO focused on quantum biology from a leading scientist out of MIT. They're building a quantum microscope to understand, for instance, processes like photosynthesis. Fun fact, still today, we do not understand how photosynthesis actually works, right? Plants are green, they produce energy, we have solar panels, but we don't understand how that actually works. And so if we did, we could, for instance, have photosynthesis in walls or even in shirts that cool ourselves. So there's all kinds of amazing scientific use cases that come from that. In January, we launched a DAO that is focused on long COVID. So over 300 million people globally roughly still suffer from the long-term effects of long COVID. That DAO raised, I think, about 2.5 million from over 300 participants from all over the world. It's currently in pre-TGE mode because they're really focused on actually making scientific progress. Last week, they began their first patient trial. So now they have their own doctor team that they send to long COVID patients to collect blood samples and biomarker samples. And then they're going to begin testing them with their own repurposed drug cocktail. So you can imagine within 2 months of existence, this DAO is already now going out, treating patients and collecting data. And we had one other one that launched this month focused on rare diseases. There are 2 currently on our platform. One is focused on mycology, and another one is focused the 30 of the top world spine surgeons, and they're bringing with them. So actually, if you sit a lot, if you have back pain, you're going to be a customer of SpineDAO. So it's called SpineDAO. They're working on novel spinal implants, and they have a network of 300,000 patients, mostly in Europe, but also some in the US, from the hospitals that they work with, that they're going to bring into the DAO for data collection. So what are some of the most exciting things that are upcoming? So we just launched kind of a full-fledged BIO Protocol V1. And you can think of BIO Protocol, it operates in a similar way as a virtual protocol does. It's essentially an automated launchpad with automated liquidity deployment. It all begins with token holders BIO token holders that curate which DAOs kind of get listed on the launchpad. So it's like an upvote, downvote function. And you can stake your bio into the DAOs that you really want to see launch. As a next step, the DAOs then fundraise either through an auction or through a bonding curve. And once they complete their fundraisers, there's an automated liquidity pool deployment. The huge difference with BIO Protocol is science actually requires capital. And so it's not like a 60K, 100K kind of market cap deployment, but our DAOs typically fundraise between 1 or 2 million through our platform. And that actually helps these research teams spin out their research and really create commercializable IP. Maybe on that point, what is actually behind any of these BioDAOs, right? the basis of pharma companies or any kind of large biotech company is typically a portfolio of intellectual property. So intellectual property in this case means trade secrets. It's like novel scientific ideas that need to be kind of kept secret so that you can later on claim a patent and essentially commercialize kind of the results from the research. We're also looking to like increasingly move into like an open source scientific ecosystem in each of these DAOs. But actually creating IP as a real world asset is super, super important because that generates royalty streams and it generates real income for these DAOs later on. So we just deployed BioV1 on Base and Solana, and now we're continuously like refining the protocol. We have about 6 DAOs that are currently listed, so those are the ones that you'll see launching. And one other initiative that we're super excited about. So since about, we have a close relationship and partnership with Prime Intellect, which is one of the leading decentralized artificial intelligence training networks. And then a very close relationship also with Eliza OS, which is one of the leading agent frameworks. And so since December, we began building a framework for, we call it agentic science. So it's a multi-agent system where as a first step, we deploy a knowledge graph in each of these kind of scientific communities, in each of these DAOs. And what is a knowledge graph? It's essentially a novel form of parsing information and data. For artificial intelligence, you typically need like a memory function in the back end. And otherwise, a lot of large language models, LLMs, tend to hallucinate. And so if you want to use them for like novel scientific discovery or to enable novel scientific ideas, they just come up with hallucinations. So like just stuff that doesn't make sense. And you don't know, is it real, is it not real? And in order to actually come up with real novel scientific IP and novel scientific insights, you need a really good database, right? And so the first agent that we've developed around this is kind of a paper farming agent. So if you're a scientist or you're at a university, you have access, right, to all of the research papers. They're behind paywall. And so the agent that we've developed, you can plug that in and it begins automatically farming papers for your community. You can also feed it with lab notes, could even be Whoop health data. Essentially creating databases for each of these, decentralized databases for each of the DAOs that launch through a launchpad. The next step in that is that you have a hypothesis agent. So everything in science is based on a new idea, right? A new hypothesis. And then I need to prove that. And so the hypothesis agent now looks at the database, right? And begins generating novel scientific ideas, novel IP. And we think this is fundamentally extremely interesting because it moves scalability for decentralized science away from working just with universities, working with existing companies, to actually being able to generate new ideas and new intellectual property natively on chain, natively in these DAOs. And then there's several other agents in that step. So it's a multi-agent system and framework. You can check it out on our blog post, but the next step in that will be an experimental design agent, right? You have your hypothesis and then you need to design an experiment. So the next agent in that workflow is an experimental design agent. And then from, let's say you now have 10,000 hypotheses that are generated. All of them have different experimental plans. You now want to filter out the ones that are actually good. And so the role of the DAO in this case increasingly becomes the one of a capital allocator and capital provider. It then decides, hey, we've generated this hypothesis and we're going to test it. And then you actually take it to a real world laboratory. And so we fundamentally believe this is going to make DeSci way, way, way more scalable. And it also really for us changes the value proposition of what scientists can do with Bio Protocol, right? They can now come in, they can straight off begin generating hypotheses, generate a knowledge base even before they fundraise. And so at the point when they're fundraising through the launchpad, you could already look at them and be like, oh wow, they have over these 10 or 100 different ideas. Something that I'm extremely excited about, maybe looking at kind of the next year and progress in DeSci, is there are obviously huge funding and budget cuts across the United States, right? And the United States has always been one of the major kind of funders of new science and innovation. And we're currently being approached by some of the best scientists in the scientific ecosystem, leading professors and labs from MIT, from Stanford, from Harvard, that are all really, really keen to actually build on this framework and create DAOs. And it's where we're having some of the most insane conversations that we didn't believe we would have so soon. So that's really exciting, being able to work with some of the best scientists in the world and bring their innovation, bring their scientific research on chain. We think this is just a use case that crypto really needs. Everyone's always like utility. Science has one of the largest kind of utility functions on the planet, right? If you just think about it for a second, everything is based on science. Even cryptography is a science, right? Was developed by the military. But do we really still live in a day and age with AI especially? Do we really still live in a day and age where we want to trust the government to kind of advance science for us? Or do we want to trust like big entrenched companies to advance science for us? No, we think we need new incumbents, and we think that you can fund science. So, yeah. I'm a huge fan of Korea. I was invited actually by the government to come to Seoul in beginning of 2019, for an AI and drug discovery conference. And so, I was working closely with the pharma industry in Switzerland at the time. And so they thought, hey, Paul knows about blockchain and AI, and so we'll send him to this conference. And I was really amazed how advanced and how far ahead thinking South Korea already was at that time. And so I was at this conference, and I met so many scientists, biotech companies that were developing incredible ideas. I gave a talk there, and probably 30, 40 people came up to me afterwards. And I realized that South Korea has this incredible R&D potential. So like really smart scientists, great universities, and really a very vibrant biotech ecosystem. But almost like very few of them were able to like have an English, like even information pitch deck, or be able to really articulate well. Like I tried to connect people with several folks, and I just realized the language barrier is so big, right? Especially in science. And so I think really the potential for BIO Protocol is, and for DeSci, is to make science really independent of institution and geography, right? Like if a researcher in South Korea has an amazing new medicine, it shouldn't matter if they can communicate well in English or not. People should just be able to discover it on chain, right? Like a token that people like, and that where the idea makes sense. And so really love the South Korean scientific community. It's my first time really also getting deeply in touch with the South Korean Web3 community. I'm super excited to come to South Korea Blockchain Week this year. And would essentially really like to work with scientists and individuals across South Korea to bring their research and their innovation on chain.